tonight, I want us to focus on our priorities. What are we doing as a city? What's important to us? Is it the sewers? Is it the school? Is it traffic? Is it growth? What really matters to us as a city? And then I want us to try to focus on facts tonight. What are the real facts of this debate? Are they things that we can prove? Are they items that we can put in our hands and look at the details? Or are they emotional thoughts that we have that are really not based in facts? And then I want to talk a little bit about fairness. That what is the fair thing to do? What is the right position for the city to take? What's right for our community? What's the right thing for us to be doing and telling businesses that are well run and profitable? And then I want to talk about, let's get this over with. We've been in this debate, we've been in this argument for 4 years now. It has been the #1 long-running issue of my 4 years as vice mayor. It's sucked a lot of energy out of this community, and I'm hoping that we can get on with the more important things. That's what I'd like to be talking about tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Foster Ackerman, Jr.
Thank you, Cruiser, and thank everybody for turning out tonight. I want to first thank the hundreds of volunteers who circulated petitions that got this referendum on the ballot so we can all vote. And I want to thank the many thousands of people, 23,000 people plus, who signed the petitions to put this on the ballot, and of course the many volunteers who are helping with our Vote Yes drive. I think there are 3 things we need to keep in mind tonight. First, the water company is for sale. There'll be a lot of talk about how it's really American water that's for sale, not Kentucky American, but that doesn't matter. It's for sale, period. And Lexington should have the chance to negotiate for and buy our water system. Thames Water in England, one of its corporate parents, has just been sold to an Australian group, according to Reuters, for $15 billion. American Water will be sold next through a stock offering or perhaps to a private investment group. That hasn't been determined yet, I don't think. What has been determined is that RWE, when it sells the water systems, will keep the cash and leave American Water Works with the debt. And you know what that means for ratepayers. Second, it is not a local company anymore. Certainly Lexington Water Company used to be. And true, there are good local employees who will keep their jobs in either circumstance, either kind of ownership. But there's been no local control or authority since RWE took over the water company. Mr. Nick Rowe, who's here tonight, submitted sworn testimony to the Public Service Commission that he spends less than 15% of his time as president of Kentucky American. It used to be a full-time job. I was present at the Public Service Commission when Chris Jarrett testified that Lexington local operations are run out of Charleston, West Virginia. I personally asked Jim McGivern, who was then head of North and South American operations for Thames Water, that if the local water board made a decision in the best interest of the community, could RWE reverse it? And he said, absolutely, the shareholders make the decisions. The billing center was in West Virginia. The treasurer of Kentucky America is in West Virginia. The vice president, secretary, and general counsel recently resigned to take another position. The call center is in Illinois. We need to vote yes to bring our water system back to Lexington. And my third point is, we can do it without a rate increase, without a tax increase, and that's what a vote yes means. This is a historic opportunity to join Louisville and 95% of the other largest communities in the United States in owning our own municipal system.
Mr. Vice Mayor, currently no company commands more than 5% of the water sales in the world, but there are some big players that are starting to line up. GE, IT&T, Siemens, they're buying up and consolidating water holdings around the world. If American Water or Kentucky American Water is for sale, why not sell it to the city? Why not accept the city or make them part of the bidding and negotiating process?
What is for sale right now is the American Water Company. The Kentucky American, despite what Mr. Ackerman says, is not for sale. If it were for sale, Scotty Basler and his paid consultants that went and called on them and have worked on that would have gotten a positive response. If it were for sale, we wouldn't have to use the government's condemnation privilege to try to take it over. So when people say Kentucky American for sale is for sale, you can say that, but we all know it just isn't true. What is for sale is American Water is for sale. And that is going to be a publicly held company in the United States. They're going through the regulatory process right now to affect that.
But there's no issue as far as American Water or Kentucky American Water. You say American Water is what's for sale. There's no issue as far as we're holding out for the bigger money from some giant corporation or conglomeration that might want to buy up a number of water systems.
There's no way that I can speak for the board of directors of American Water. What they're telling the public, and what we have no reason to disbelieve, and what they are in fact doing, is going through the regulatory process right now to take it public. You just have to believe when they're spending the expense and going through the efforts to do that, that's what their real intentions are, is to take it public in the United States.
Mr. Ackerman, would you like to respond?
I hear that. We heard that 4 years ago when RWE was acquiring American Water Works. But as I recall, there was a New England community that managed to buy their local system in the midst of the RWE takeover of American Water. So it's not impossible for the company to decide to spin off one of its subsidiaries to a local community. It's entirely possible. We're asking for the right to have discussions to do that.
Mr. Ackerman, a question for you, and this came up on my radio show yesterday. We were talking about this, and the issue came up, well, to condemn or take over the water company, it's illegal. Illegal takeover gets used from time to time by people that think that this measure ought to fail. The Supreme Court ruling on eminent domain has been criticized. It's an unpopular, very toxic ruling. Don't you have a tough sell convincing people that this is legal and ethical for American Water to be forced to sell to someone they don't want to be sold to?
Well, there are 2 or 3 answers to that. One lies in the Kentucky statutes, which specifically allows a community to acquire a water utility. Secondly, if Mike and his associates 20 months ago had not pulled the plug on the litigation, that issue would have been decided by the courts by now, because it was fully briefed and on Judge Rakes' desk as to whether it was proper to exercise eminent domain in this situation. This is entirely different from the Kelo case that you're referring to, where a community attempted to take private houses for a industrial development. In this case, what we're talking about is a monopoly that is operating under a city-issued franchise. You go back to the very beginning of any community, the smallest hamlet in history, and the chief had 2 jobs: provide security and provide water. And if he did that, then everybody else would grow the crops, raise the animals, and make the community thrive. Owning a water system is a perfectly legal thing for Lexington to do, and it is, if it comes to it, eminent domain is a perfectly legal way to go about it.
Mr. Scanlon, any comment?
I think the statutes are clear that the government has the right to condemn this water company. I think what we're failing to point out, what we're failing to remember, is the intention of the people who wrote this wasn't to say to take over a company that is well run and profitable simply because you want the money. The object of this was to take over a company that wasn't being well run, that was doing some sort of thing that, with a utility that would endanger the public there, that wasn't in the best interest of the public. These folks have been owned by this company for the last 2 or 3 years. This Kentucky American Water Company has been here for, what, 100 years? We know who's running it. We know what's going on. Not one allegation in this room that this local company isn't being well run by the people who own it. No one has presented one shred of evidence that they have done anything wrong or are about to do anything wrong, and that was the original intentions of the folks that wrote this statute. No one ever said it's okay to take over a company simply because it's profitable and well run and we want it. The intentions were that the government could come in and take over a utility if there were any problems with it. Not one shred of evidence that there's any problems with it. Now, as to me and the cohorts ending this litigation 20 months ago, the voters ended this litigation by electing council people that were well known for wanting to stop it. The voters put these people in office. Be that as it may, the people who got elected said no. This wasn't something that just up and popped out.